So now we're going to talk about connecting your device that doesn't have an Ethernet WAN to CDRouter through some other device in order to translate from one medium to another. So CDRouter's WAN is Ethernet. And so if you've got a device that connects over a CMTS, like in a DOCSIS environment, or in a GPON environment where you need to connect through an OLT, or a fixed wireless, where you're going to need a Callbox in order to connect your device to CDRouter's Ethernet WAN. The best way to connect these devices is directly. So each of those devices, the CMTS, the Callbox, those have an uplink that's Ethernet that CDRouter can connect directly to. So if you have one of those devices that you can isolate and connect CDRouter directly to that uplink Ethernet, that's the best situation, because then you still have a closed loop and CDRouter is still able to receive and send all of the traffic that your device is going to receive. Alternatively, if you could do this indirectly so that you've got your Callbox connected to an Ethernet switch, and maybe there are some other devices, but you can still connect CDRouter directly to that switch so that you're on the same IP subnet, the same broadcast domain. That's the next best situation, because then you still have a relatively isolated environment and everything is just one hop away. Now, you may have a situation where you can't isolate your Callbox. You need to connect it through another live network. This is usually a situation where it's a shared setup. The Callbox is larger, shared by other groups, other devices, and CDRouter is either connected to somewhere else in the lab network, and you've got multiple hops. And often this may be a live network. In each of these setups, whether you've got an isolated Callbox, CMTS, OLT, or whether this is a multi-hop live network, you're still going to need to add the same gateway information to your CDRouter config. All right, so here we've got a simple setup without any Callbox. This is the typical closed loop environment. You can see that the WAN ISP IP test var identifies CDRouter's WAN interface. That's also the DHCP server. And the DUT is the WAN ISP assign IP. CDRouter assigns the device an IP address directly, and they're both on the same IP subnet. If we move to a routed setup, now the Callbox is acting as a gateway between the DUT and CDRouter's WAN interface. And so we need to add the WAN ISP gateway test var to your CDRouter config. That tells CDRouter that it needs to use the Callbox as a gateway in order to reach the device under test. That's identified by the WAN ISP gateway test var, and it's got the same IP subnet as CDRouter's WAN interface. In addition, the WAN ISP assign IP is going to have to change to be on a different IP subnet. This is the address that your device is going to get from CDRouter after CDRouter has received the relayed DHCP request. When CDRouter's DHCP server responds, it's going to assign your device a default gateway, which corresponds to the Callbox of the OLT or the CMTS interface that is directly connected to your device under test. That's identified by the WAN ISP assign gateway. That will be contained in the DHCP response that's sent to your device. So all four of those test vars are going to need to be updated. Now, in all CDRouter configurations, CDRouter's servers, like its DNS, its NTP, its ACS, or controller for USP, all of those exist in a virtual address space that is remote from the WAN interface. They're in a separate IP subnet. Those go into a reserved address block in your config file. Now, if CDRouter is directly connected to the Callbox, then the Callbox just needs a single route. Its default gateway is CDRouter, and all of the traffic that it receives from the device under test is going to go straight to CDRouter's WAN interface as the next hop to reach those remote servers. If you've got a live network and the Callbox is routing through multiple router hops in order to reach CDRouter, then you've got to update your routing throughout your network so that those routers know about the reserved address block where CDRouter's virtual servers are. So that address block needs to be separate from your addressing plan, and then you need to add routes to your live network so that they can forward that traffic up to CDRouter's WAN interface and treat that as a next hop in order to reach those destination addresses. Now, if CDRouter is connected to a live network where there's multiple router hops between the Callbox and CDRouter's WAN interface, you're going to need to integrate CDRouter into your live network's address plan and routing plan in order for the traffic to be forwarded properly. So there's a few requirements that go along with this. First, you're going to need to allocate an IP address for CDRouter's WAN interface. This is the connection point to your live network. You're also going to need to allocate an IP address for the device under test that's connected to the Callbox. Then you're going to need to allocate a block of free addresses that aren't used anywhere else in your network. These are going to be reserved for CDRouter's servers like DNS, NTP, the TR69 ACS, the USP controller, etc. Any HTTP servers or other servers that CDRouter creates dynamically during testing are also going to be in this free address block. Ideally, this is a /24 256 address block. If it can be larger, even better. Lastly, you're going to need to add a static route so that your routing environment knows how to route all of the traffic to those virtual servers through CDRouter's WAN interface. CDRouter's WAN interface is going to be the next hop in order to reach those destinations. If you need any more details about any of these configurations, they're all on our website. We have a knowledge base article for the Amarisoft setup that we used in this example. We've also got a knowledge base that covers GPON specifically. And we have a DOCSIS extension for CDRouter that covers provisioning of the cable modem in a DOCSIS environment. All of that information is in the DOCSIS user guide, and you can find all of that on the CDRouter support site. And if you have any questions or need any help, just email us here at support@qacafe.com.